yeah. The corner singer on the mic, yeah. To the new view, let's go. I might not be able to see you, but you can see me with your mind, baby. Even though you may have sight, you should know that I am blind, baby. So don't judge me, get to know me. Don't rush, just take it in slowly. I could do much more than you know. I can open your mind with my eyes closed. Eyes closed, mind open. Come into my world and let me change your view of me. Eyes closed, mind open. Come into my world and let me change your view of me.
Hello and welcome back to Eyes Closed, Mind Opened. And today I have a very special guest with me, someone without whom NewView would probably not be, at least in its current existence. We couldn't do anything that we do without her. It's the head honcho, Lauren Branch, our president and CEO. So if, you don't like the person sitting in the host seat, you can blame her. She asked me to host the podcast. So if you have any complaints, I'll give you her cell phone number at the end of this episode, and you can just text her and let her know. Of course, I'm joking. I hope that you're okay with me hosting, but I'm excited to have her here today to just talk about how she got started at NewView and what the journey has been like as she's kind of gone up through the ranks, and maybe she was a little surprised at taking the CEO position. But anyway, so we'll get started, and Lauren, say hi to the people.
Well, hello, people. I don't get introductions that nice often, so thank you very much. That was lovely.
I try to be nice to the people in charge. It probably bodes well for me, I would think.
It probably does, yeah.
Also, if I were going to give a mean introduction, you might not be sitting across from me either.
No, it would probably be Mark Ivy.
That is absolutely true. I'm always mean to Mark Ivy every chance I get. So let's just start out by, telling the people who you are and how you kind of got started at NewView.
Oh my gosh. So obviously Hannah introduced me. I'm Lauren Branch, and I'm the president and CEO at NewView Oklahoma. And I am getting ready to, probably in about 60 days, celebrate my 29th anniversary with the organization. So I've been with NewView the better part of my career. And, honestly, I kind of fell into the job. It was, back 29 years ago, I was working for a company. I was a controller. So, for those of you who don't know what a controller is, I was over all of the finance and accounting for a different organization. It wasn't nonprofit, it was for profit. And my job relocated out of state. And at the time, I had 3 small children and 1 on the way, and relocation just really wasn't an option. So I was looking for a job, and NewView, what was then the Oklahoma League for the Blind, was hiring for a controller position. And so I interviewed and got the job, and that was in the spring of 1997.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
So did you know about NewView before, or did you just see it and say, "Oh, all right, I'll do that"?
I had no idea. Honestly, I don't even remember how the job came across. I mean, I was looking for a job, so I was probably going through, some kind of a staffing firm or something that specialized in accounting type jobs. And anyway, but interestingly, I just fell in love with it. I mean, when I interviewed, I thought, like I said, I had come from private industry, and I was a little burned out, and I thought, wow, this is great. I could, be able to use my skills and work for a nonprofit. So I would be giving back and thinking it would be less stressful. And, because I had a lot of responsibility at home. I was getting, on the verge of having, baby number 4 and, thinking, yeah, this is, give me a little bit of a break. I get to give back, use my skills. And, so I hired on. It was a lot harder than what I thought it would be. And, a bigger, more complicated job than I ever could have imagined. But, honestly, I've loved every day of it.
Well, and I'm sure you didn't, never would have imagined that starting out as a controller, you would be the CEO.
Well, I did not imagine that. And that happened really, really fast. There were a lot of changes pretty quickly after I got there. And maybe 4 months after I started, I was, all of a sudden the interim executive director, and then follow on. I was appointed the full-time permanent director. So yeah, all of that happened in a very, very short period of time. And, I was too young and stupid to know I was too young and stupid to do the job. So you just kind of buckle down and figure it out.
Yeah. Wow. I would have done that. I don't think if I had, after 4 years of 4 months of being here and you had said, okay, Hannah, you're going to do this thing, I probably would have cried.
Yeah. Well, I can't say that I didn't. But it was, I just, I think one of the things that I've always been pretty aware of is that I can't do everything. And so I'm pretty good at finding resources to help me out. And I can tell you, I did a lot of that the first couple of years, was just reaching out to people that I thought knew how to do the job and saying, hey, I need help. Yeah. And then you fast forward 29 years later and it's worked out okay.
I think so. I think it's worked out pretty great.
Yeah. And it's been a lot of fun. And, you asked, how I found NewView. I didn't, I wasn't looking for it. I didn't know anything about our field at all. And, I will tell you, the only experience that I had ever had with blindness was, when I was young, my cousin was legally blind. He had albinism. But quite frankly, we didn't really pay much attention to the fact that he couldn't see. We were more worried about him getting sunburned. So it was like, I wasn't really aware of it, and he lived out of state. And then, I got to NewView and just learned about all of the amazing things that we were doing and could be done. I connected with, colleagues across the country, and, you don't know what you don't know. I had no idea how blind people learned how to do things. And, we were only doing manufacturing. We weren't doing any rehabilitation services at the time. And I remember one of my colleagues said to me one time, he asked me if we did rehab. And honestly, at that particular point in time, I didn't even know the lingo. Yeah. Like, people would talk about O&Ms and TVIs. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. All I knew is we're just trying to make stuff down here. Yeah. But I remember him saying to me, if you're not providing vision rehabilitation services, then you're really not serving your people. And I didn't know exactly what he meant then, but I certainly know exactly what he meant now. Yeah. And it's just a really important part of what we do here at NewView now.
It is. And I was about to say that, a lot has changed in the past 29 years since you started, but how incredible that you knew nothing going in. and still said, yes, I will be interim executive director.
Well, sometimes it's better not knowing. I mean, sometimes you can know too much, and that can be really scary. And then, you know nothing. You don't know what to expect. So, yeah.
But what would you say is the most unexpected way that NewView has grown since you've been there? Ooh, a stumper.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that, from way back when, I'm not sure that I envisioned that we could be like a statewide organization, providing services. And I certainly didn't expect that we would be employing people in other states. But really, our clinic and vision rehabilitation services were really born out of necessity. Mm-hmm. And, I tried really early on to approach it the way that other agencies did. Like we didn't have anything here in Oklahoma. So, I've got colleagues across the country, and, I'd go and visit them and see how they were getting funded, see how they were delivering services, the professionals that they were using. And I would come back here and go, okay, well, this is what we need to do. And then in trying to figure out how to do it, there were no professionals available in the state of Oklahoma to really do it. We don't have robust training programs. They just did not exist. And so we had to figure out a way. Either we were going to deliver services and do it a different way, or we were not going to do it at all. And not doing it at all just really didn't seem like an option. And so navigating into utilizing like occupational therapy and occupational therapy assistants was very cutting edge and not accepted in our field when we started. We were actually the pioneers of doing that. And so we became, over time, a national model for how you deliver rehabilitation services in a hybrid kind of fashion, like where you're melding true vision rehabilitation trained professionals and medical professionals together to deliver robust, comprehensive services. And so maybe that was the most surprising thing, because we were just trying to figure out how to get it done. And I can tell you, like, I would go to meetings and I would present what we were doing, and I was not welcomed with open arms. I mean, there was tremendous amount of controversy and pushback and a lot of negative things. But over time, we've done a really good job at developing the model. But the other thing is just the recognition over time that we just have a lack of professionals in our field. And if we're truly going to serve all the people who need to access services, we got to be thinking about it in a different way.
Wow. Well, I learned something new today.
Did you?
Which is good.
Okay.
I have been at NewView, for those who don't know, for a little over 4 years, but I don't necessarily know our history as well as I probably should, especially since I go out in the community and talk about NewView. But I mean, just how all of these things got started. Of course, I knew, how rehab kind of got started and different things like that. But knowing how we were a national model for things like that is pretty cool. And it kind of makes sense too, because, when I say now to other organizations, when I go and do advocacy work or whatever, if I'm, executive leadership training or whatever, and they ask me what organization I'm from and I say NewView, then they're like, oh, and they get really excited. And
well, that's probably part of the reason.
Right? Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The other reason is they say, oh, so Lauren Branch. And I say, yeah, I get to hang out with her quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, you do.
I do. Sorry for that. No. So camps started under you as well, right?
They did.
Yeah. So that's how we met.
It is. A lot of years ago.
A lot of years ago. And embarrassingly, I'll tell on myself, though I shouldn't. When I first started at NewView working, I was locked up in this little room with about 5 people, and we were doing PDF remediation and making sure these documents were accessible for people with
But you
disabilities.
could actually get out of the room.
I
so
could.
don't make it sound like we locked you in the room.
Never
and
got out all
Yeah,
day.
please. Oh my gosh, that's I don't need that rumor going around.
No.
Yeah, okay.
I was allowed to leave for bathroom breaks, and then I had to
Okay.
No, but then someone came in one day and they said, yeah, Lauren was talking about you the other day. And I was like, huh? Who? What? And they're like, Lauren Branch, the CEO. I said, yeah, I know who our CEO is. Why was she talking about me? And then they were like, well, she was talking about how, she's known you ever since you were a kid. And I was like, what? How? And then it finally dawned on me. I was like, well, duh. I know who Lauren Branch is, but for some reason.
Well, you know what? I wasn't Lauren Branch then.
That's why, probably.
Yeah. I got married in 20. Oh my God. Okay, don't tell my husband. I got married in 2011. Yeah, and changed my name. So you wouldn't have known me back then as Lauren Branch.
That's just probably the disconnect. But then as soon as we talked to each other, I was like, well, duh, I know who that is. But it was so embarrassing to me because they were like, how would you forget something like that? And I was like, well, I don't think I forgot so much as.
Well, and I hope you know by now that you don't ever have to be embarrassed about anything, because that kind of stuff does not, I don't know why you would remember me. I mean, you see me 1 week out of, a few years, and you know what? And I'm just kind of in the background anyway, so.
It's true. But yeah, so that's how Lauren first met me, which, is kind of scary because Lord knows what I was like as a child.
Oh, you were wonderful. I mean, we had some of those boys that were, totally off the wall.
It's true.
So
it's true.
Yeah, you were easy.
Yeah,
easy
comparatively.
Peasy.
Yeah, I tried to be. Also, my mom was kind of one of those helicopter moms that was like, I don't know if I want to let my kid ever do anything. Like, let's wrap her in bubble wrap and I'll keep her with me forever. But I think camp is really what pushed her to being okay with me going and doing other things like later on. And it's not that I never got to experience anything, because I did. They let me do everything.
That is exactly the reason that we structured camp the way that we did and didn't allow parents and kept you overnight.
Yeah.
Because your mom's not the only one that likes to bubble wrap their child and keep them protected from the world, which I totally get, but, sometimes you got to cut some of that bubble wrap off and let kids be kids, right?
It's true. It's true. And like I said, I mean, they let me, experience everything. It was just like going away or doing different things without their supervision was really hard on my mom. My dad was the one that was just like, she'll be okay.
Yeah, but they haven't killed anybody yet.
Right? Yeah. But I remember her telling Kathy Holden, I think, that, because we, at that time, our camp, we went with Woodland Hills, the church. Mm-hmm. And so Mom said that when she saw all of them come and like swarm the car to come get me, she was like, it was just like the Lord was telling her she's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And so I remember her telling Kathy that, just that, that's kind of what made her more open to me doing other things. And, a big part of that had to do with you. So say thanks, Mom. That's say thanks to Lauren.
I tell you, that makes me feel really good, because we do hear, people sometimes think, oh yeah, summer camp, the kids are just, but there is some method behind the madness, in terms of, why we do it the way that we do. I mean, it can seem chaotic and whatever, but, I've heard numerous stories over the years about parents like really not understanding what their kids were capable of, and not letting them test boundaries. And then they come to camp and it's like, oh, well, and then they came home and they wanted to make their bed and they, fold laundry now and they, play outside. And I mean, it seems like, a lot of those things we sometimes take for granted, but those are really important things to learn that sometimes you just don't if you're bubble wrapped.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely had to do chores. Never got out of that. That didn't let me get out of that. It was mostly just, going places without them. But no, rest assured, I had the chores.
Yeah, well, that's good because some of them don't.
I know, it's true. It's true.
No, yeah, you really do have to take a shower and brush your hair and brush your teeth. And no, you have to make your bed. And yes, it's right. I mean, it can be as basic as those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. So, of course, with all of, the fun things and the exciting and the learning comes, challenges as well. So what does keep you going on the days where you're just like, oh my, this is rough?
It's it's being here every day and seeing, Liz or Cece or someone giving a mobility lesson, down the hall, and I go out and peek around and, Cece will be with a 5-year-old or Liz will be with someone who, is newly blind adult and trying to learn to navigate things. And, sometimes I just stand out in the hall and watch them, because it's so empowering, what we do and life-changing, and to watch that transformation. It's like, how do you not get up every day and fight the hard stuff when, you get to come in and you see on a day-to-day basis, like the impact of what you're doing on a daily basis, or, going down the manufacturing plant and people are working, and people who never thought that they would work, or, it's truly, it does. That kind of stuff keeps me going. As a matter of fact, that makes me work harder. Those are, on the hard days, that's what really gets me through.
Yeah. I think another thing that I love is that the way that you see the potential in people to say, well, this person would be good at this thing. And I think we kind of talked about that earlier, where you're like, well, I just use my resources. I would call people because I knew that they knew what to do. But even after I sort of stepped away from digital accessibility and you said, well, why don't you advocate instead? And I was like, I like to talk.
Well, it is a little bit more than talking.
It is.
Yes.
But that's kind of what I mean, though. I didn't think of it, for myself at the time until you said something about it. And that's really, I was like, but why? Because I don't know. But just how you can put the pebble in someone's shoe and then, all of a sudden they're running with something that they wouldn't think they ever would, which I think is really neat.
Yeah, but I think it's important to do that, because a lot of people, really don't see their own potential. And so I do think that it's important, for everyone to have people around them that can push them a little bit, and I don't know, Hannah, if you thought that you would be hosting podcasts.
I didn't.
Doing, but, what I saw was, and what I've seen is just a extremely talented, articulate storyteller, and with a passion for making sure that people who are blind have the same opportunities as everybody else. That's in you're so good at expressing that in a way that moves people. And that's what advocacy is really about, right? It's storytelling and being able to attach that emotion to it and move people in a direction that they may not have moved in before. So, I said, I always said when you were working down there, it's like, this is okay for now, but I know that she can do more than this. So,
and I think, I love the digital accessibility too. And I think obviously it's important, and I know it's important, but I always wanted something different for myself too, or something to add to that maybe. Mm-hmm. And so when you first approached me about that, of course, I'm just, I always tease people and I say, when Lauren says jump, I say how high, but it's not really, true. But I like to just try all the new things. So even if, I was hesitant at first, I wanted to give it a try. And then I found out, hey, I like this stuff.
And you're pretty good at it. So
I try at least.
So there you go.
Yeah. Or even the community outreach aspect, it's fun for me to be able to go and to talk about our mission with other people, because like you said, I am so passionate about it and about making sure that everybody knows who we are and what we do and how we can help, because it has helped me. So, I say thank you to you for giving me the opportunity, because without it, I'd probably still be locked in that room, only coming out for bathroom breaks.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, someone's going to pick up on that. And next thing you know, they're going to be saying that we lock people in the rooms at NewView, which we don't. So anyway.
They don't. I promise they don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen.
Well, and I tell you, what's exciting to me too is to see people grow, and grow into new positions and develop new skill sets and move into leadership. I mean, that's one of the great joys too. And the older I get, the more, that has become important to me, so, it's kind of the leaving a legacy. It's like raising your kids.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you want the very best for them. And then they fly, and it's always good to feel like you played some small part of that.
Yeah, I agree. We were just talking yesterday, actually, in church about passing the torch, right? Because it doesn't happen just by you doing your job and then leaving. You have to pave the way in some way for the next people to come in. Mm-hmm. And so I think that you are doing that quite well.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So what else do you want to know?
Oh, man. What do I want to know? I told Lauren, for those of you who don't know, that I was going to give her questions ahead of time. And then I got really busy last week and I did not give her questions ahead of time. But I feel like it's only fair because Cheryl asked for questions ahead of time when I had her on the podcast. And I told her no. I said, I just need you to wing it. And so then I thought when I told you yes, well, that's not very fair. But then it was unintentional, though. I still meant to give you questions and I didn't. But yeah, so let's kind of pivot again back to employment. And, for the listeners who don't know, we're the largest employer of blind and low vision individuals in the state of Oklahoma. But a lot of times we like to say, but we would love for other people to step in and employ blind people as well. We don't want to be the only ones. So, what would you say to people who are, potential employers who kind of would think, oh, I don't know if I could hire someone who is blind, or, even people who are looking for employment right now, how do they advocate for themselves or, what would you say to the employers as well, though?
Well, I'd say to the employers, yes, you can. Mm-hmm. I mean, we provide employment across a broad spectrum of skill sets, et cetera. I mean, when there's a will, there's a way. And that a lot of the accommodations that are made are pretty simple. Mm-hmm. And some of the accommodations they already have. They just don't know that they have them. I just think that you've got to be open to it. But the other thing is that, I think we've got to do a better job of, like you said, getting the word out and developing those partnerships, because, a lot of times when we get people in here, they've, are on this vision journey, some of them, it's amazing to me how many of them say, well, I didn't know there were any other blind people around. And so, which means that, where is everybody? I mean, obviously not integrated as much into our communities and, as I think we should be, and I'm sure that there are a lot of reasons for that. Yeah. But I do think, though, being open to someone's, capabilities is really important, and not prejudging whether, because we all look at things from our own perspectives, right? I mean, you can't help it. And so, I'm sure that someone sitting there thinking about the job that they're doing, it's very hard for them to imagine how they would do that job without being able to see. And I think that unintentionally that gets projected onto the bigger picture, And so I think that we need to do a better job at educating and developing those partnerships. And I'm really excited about, our new workforce development initiative, because I think that that's going to bridge some of that. I think that, we've had some gaps in things that we're doing, and I'm very excited about having a dedicated workforce development person, but someone that not only can work with employers, but can work with potential employees too, because sometimes navigating the system can be extremely difficult and can be a barrier in and of itself for someone seeking out and obtaining employment, and I think too, we're focused on doing a better job at building out the vocational rehabilitation training services that we offer, so that, I've often said, we can train all the people we want, but if we can't get them across the finish line into employment, then we're not really doing our job. And I think this year and rolling into 2026 that we're putting those pieces in place that will enable us to bridge from training into employment that doesn't have to be at NewView, that can be in other places. And I think that's really important. But it takes a while to, build those things out and to get the right people in place and understand and navigate everything that you have to navigate to get that successfully across the finish line.
I love when, we're looking at a potential partnership or whatever, and we have people come in and they're kind of, I think of, we're potentially going to start some sort of a call center. Mm-hmm. And we met with someone, and Avery had them come into my office because they were just so baffled by, how are they going to be able to read these scripts and answer the phone and do all of this. And, I came in and showed them how a screen reader worked. And also, there's Braille displays. So if you have someone that reads Braille, then they can read the script while doing this simultaneously. And like the way in which their minds were just blown because they had no idea. And you wouldn't. Why would you have any sort of idea of what is possible?
Right.
If you've never met a blind person before. And
yeah, exactly.
But it was just so, I think, rewarding for me, because I like it when they have those aha moments where they finally realize this is something that could actually be possible, when 2 seconds before they were saying, this is impossible. There's no way. And had, when I was going through finding employment, which was 5 years of seeking out employment and going through interviews and getting turned down over and over again, I never got those opportunities to show them, if I could just show you how I can use a computer, or if I could, if you would just give me a couple more seconds of your time. But that's why, I feel fortunate now that I can do that. So hopefully it paves the way for other people. Maybe they'll encounter those people and they'll then know that it's possible.
I think it will. I mean, everything takes time, and Hannah, you've known me long enough to know that I'm pretty impatient, but it's, we've been working on this a long time. It's a long game. And, I wish we were further along, not just here, but, everywhere. I mean, there's, continues to be huge barriers to employment, but it's not anything that we can't overcome. And, you just got to chip away at it a little bit at a time and not give up. And I think that's where that's where the real work is, because, it is easy to give up and throw your hands up. And, I know over and over again, my people around me, you know how you do these leadership things, and, you do behavioral stuff or whatever, or you try to describe, the characteristics. I mean, the label that I get labeled with the most is tenacious. And, but I think that you have to be that way. Yeah. I mean, that's how you get things done. I mean, you can't give up, and you can't settle either. And I think that we also do a lot of settling and think that this is as good as it's going to get, and so we give people a pass, and that's not good. I mean, I think that it's really slowed things down for getting people in the workforce.
Well, and I feel like it's also especially hard when you have even kind of some naysayers within the blind community itself who are kind of at war with agencies like ours, where they think, that we don't provide good enough employment, or that we are doing a disservice. And then, so you're not just combating outside forces, as it were, you're also kind of dealing with it inwardly as well. And I know, I've had friends who, when I said I worked at NewView, they would be like, oh, like it was something to be ashamed of, which, I mean, but if they could see, all the innovation that we're doing, all the ways in which we are trying to make sure that there's other employment opportunities besides us. I mean, we want people to do exactly what they want to do in a career, not just, oh, we'll come to NewView because that's all there is.
Right.
And so I imagine that's hard as well. But, for me, it's what keeps pushing me to do more, because I want those people to know that, this is worthwhile and meaningful employment.
Well, and, I mean, I think the thing that frustrates me a lot about that too is that, people should be able to choose their own path, right? And what is good for me is not necessarily good for you. People, we do manufacturing, right? I mean, we have a lot of other jobs too. I mean, look, we're sitting in here doing a podcast, and this is part of your job. So you're not down in the manufacturing plant, running a machine or whatever. But you know what? Outside of NewView, there are actually people who are not blind that run machines.
Exactly.
And they do these jobs as well. And it's their choice. Now, are there enough available opportunities for people who are blind in our communities? No, there aren't. And we need to be working to change that. But you know what? Sometimes too, jobs or employment are a means to an end, and not the end in and of itself. And so, I look at individuals who, they lost their vision like at 40 years old. I mean, and they're, they've got kids at home and they've got a mortgage, and you know what? They need a paycheck. And they need training. And you know what? We can provide them training, and we can give them a job, and we can fill that gap until they can get their skills back, and then maybe they transition to something else, or maybe they really do like working at NewView, which we have a lot of people that do. I mean, you jokingly said that, we locked you in a room and let you out for bathroom breaks. people are here because they want to be here,
It's
not
true.
not because they have to be here. And and they can certainly, if they want to go do something else, they have that choice. But to put things in place that prevent people from accessing training and job opportunities at NewView, I think it's just flat out wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what happens is, people judge it, and people that have power to to pay for services, to make those kinds of decisions, they put things in place that prevent people from fulfilling their getting back to I mean, all of those things. And it makes me very angry, and it makes me very sad. And I just believe wholeheartedly that nobody tells me where I can work and who I can work with. I mean, so why should somebody other than you determine where you should work and who you should work with and what you should be doing? I mean, come on.
Exactly. I mean, we have guys at the plant that before they lost their vision, they were working in manufacturing.
Exactly. And they liked it.
Yes, that's all they've ever wanted to do. And then they had NewView, and they get to do what they've always been doing, and they love it. And they have said, I will stay here until I die, basically. I mean, because that's what they want to do. I mean, on the flip side of that, we have people that want to do something different, maybe in the future, that look for ways to move up within the company or whatever. And guess what? We offer those opportunities as well. So there's, you're not locked into doing a certain thing. And we certainly don't force you. We don't say, this is all you have, so come to NewView.
Exactly. And if you don't like it here, you don't have to stay. So, I mean, and I will say, I mean, we will never, ever be large enough to provide all the jobs to all the people, every position or whatever, because, I kind of use this analogy. I mean, it's like this everywhere. In any given company, you've got, it's set up like a pyramid. I mean, there's, you got me at the top, there's one CEO, and then you have directors, underneath, and they're, a handful of them. And then you have another layer. And then, at the bottom, you have your entry level positions and, and all that kind of stuff. But, if 10 people in the organization in NewView aspire to be the CEO, like in 10 years, how many of those people do you think are going to be the CEO in 10 years?
Just one.
Maybe, right? Because you have to go through a lot of steps to be able to get there. So that, you have to have, other positions open up so you can gain the skill sets, or, like most people, develop their careers by moving companies. I mean, that's really how it works, is you get into a company and then you hit a certain, like ceiling at a particular point in time, and you have another opportunity. So you go someplace else, it's not a lateral, it's, a promotion, you develop more skill sets. And then, that's generally how it works. Most people don't stay in one company from birth to death and, start as the entry level, right out of whatever, and then are the CEO. It doesn't work that way. And that is the reason that I'm so passionate about other opportunities, and for people to be able to get experience anywhere they want to get experience, and why we shouldn't be the largest employer of people who are blind, because everyone should have the same opportunities to have that, to be able to self-determine and have those trajectories that we all aspire to. And, and some people just want to work 7:30 to 3:30. Yeah. I mean, they don't ever want to be a manager because that's too much responsibility. And so, allowing people to do that, I think is really part of who we are. And as you said, I mean, I'm unapologetic about that, and I don't think we should be apologetic about, or hide from what we do because others think that it's not enough.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the things though that I appreciate and love about you though is that you are unapologetic, and I love to watch you as we have gone places and done advocacy work together or whatever, to watch you be so passionate about things like this, because it is so important. And like I said, we're not just content with manufacturing. We're not just content with being the largest employer. Like, we do want to do more, and we're working on that. But as you were saying earlier, it doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of hoops that we have to jump through just to convince people that, hey, this can actually work. And then to, get everything set in place after the fact, after they've accepted that fact or learned differently. So, but that's been, one thing that I've really enjoyed is just going with you and watching how passionate you are, because, it's different when you're a sighted person, but you still get it to some degree without having been in our own shoes. But
yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, because there is a difference between me talking about it and you talking about it. It is a different perspective, but it's not any less important.
Right.
And we're trying to get to the same place. And I am passionate about it. I love it. I would hope, I'm obviously on the backside of my career. I'm in my 60s now, and, I started when I had an infant, but I would like to see before, I retire, some big change, just a real shift in what we're doing. And, I just feel like we can get there. I really do. And, that's really my hope.
yeah, so do I.
And you're a lot younger than I am, so it probably is going to happen in your lifetime.
I am a lot younger than you are. But so do you have like a favorite memory that sticks out to you since you've been here?
Oh my gosh.
You can pick 5.
I have yeah, well, you know what? I have so many, but I will tell you one of my favorite things. So we used to do company picnics that were more organically, grown than, having, things catered or whatever. We used to all I used to stay up half the night before the picnic and do all the food and stuff. And then we would, grill and, have bands and everything. And one year we decided to rent golf carts, and, on our Douglas property, we have that big field out back, and we put a driving course back there, and we let all of our blind employees drive. And so we had someone who was sighted that was sitting in the passenger seat of the golf cart, and then the blind person could drive. Oh my gosh, they had so much fun. Because some of them obviously had never driven before. We did figure out that we needed to put a governor on them, so you couldn't put full pedal to the metal because it could get a little bit out of control. And oh my gosh, we had one employee. She was her name was Betty Rocha, and she was in Hannah, I'm pretty short. I'm just about 5 feet tall, and Betty was shorter than I was, and just and oh my gosh, she went crashing through the barrier. Nobody was hurt, but it was we had the best time doing that. We still, they're the old timers who are still around still talk about that. And I talk about that every once in a while and think, that would be fun to do again. And then everybody shuts me down because of liability and all that kind of stuff. But how fun,
It would be fun.
It was it was just really a lot of fun. I mean, we've had a lot of good times. I practically raised my kids at NewView.
You did.
I did. No, I mean, that's no joke. I mean,
No.
physically, they were like literally at NewView all the time. And, they did summer camps. I mean, when my boys were really little and we were still doing it, your first summer camps were down at the lake. And I think, anyway, I just throw life jackets on them and hope somebody was paying attention to them if they fell in the water, because I was busy doing other things. But, I mean, there's just so many. I mean, I love our Christmas parties, and, I think the thing that I miss the most about the early days was, we were a lot smaller then. And so I really knew everyone, I mean, I knew their families and their kids and their stories, and I miss that. Yeah. I mean, I really do, because the bigger that we've gotten, I mean, it just is more difficult to do that. And, we have multiple locations, and,
Right.
it changes and evolves. But that was always just really important to me to, and I took a lot of pride in that too, that I knew everybody, and I just loved everybody too. I mean, I really have become very personally vested in not just the organization, but the people here. And I'm not as close to that as I was, early on.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is hard. I mean, we've grown into, having a lot of people off site even. So I mean, of course you're not going to know all the people out in California or wherever, because you don't get out there. But even at the plant though, we've grown more at the plant, and you probably don't see everyone. Well, you don't see everyone every day there. So,
I know. I used to, like every day I saw everybody.
Yeah. But even us here in the Klassen building, I mean, a lot of times you're not here, or you're in your office. See, we lock Lauren in her office all the time. And
they do let me out to go to the bathroom. Yeah.
But I mean, you're always in meetings or solving the world's problems. So, I mean, you don't even see us every day.
I know.
So I imagine, I can only imagine how hard it is to build relationships. The way I got you to do it with me was, you locked me in a car with you, and we went to Stillwater together. And
you had to listen to me talk for like hours. Yes.
That's how we did it. But, not everybody gets that luxury.
Yeah. I used to do this, and I loved it. I need to restart it. I used to do this lunch thing where, we put together each year a group of employees. I mean, and they were never managers, always, the people in the plant, or, like therapists in rehab or whatever. And over a year's time, we would all get together and meet for lunch once a month and just talk. And, we would develop a relationship. They would share things with me. I mean, I would learn things, and then we could problem solve together. But I was also real open with them. Like they, I would tell them personal stuff or whatever. But it really did develop a lot of trust. And and I think sometimes to the chagrin of some of the managers too, because then, I mean, sometimes you develop those kind of relationships that they just think that they can come tell me anything, and then I go, well, okay, well, yes, but you know what, we really need to go back through we need to do this the right way. So, I can't just jump in and, and solve this. But I really enjoyed doing that. And, just sitting here talking to you makes me think that I really want to start doing that again. Cause I have gotten away from that and knowing everybody and and developing those personal relationships that I think are really important.
Well, is there anything else that you want the people to know about you or NewView, or any takeaways?
Well, I mean, I think it's always important to say, that what we do is it doesn't come at no cost. I mean, it's it's expensive to run an operation like this, and so I think it's important to get the word out. I think it's important for people to know who we are and what we do and the importance of our work, and and to support the work that we do. I run across people all the time that when I tell them I work for NewView and what we do, and they'll say, well, I don't know anybody who's blind, and then you start digging a little bit deeper, and they'll go, oh yeah, my grandma has macular degeneration. Well, yes, then those are people who we serve. And so, I think just getting the word out and garnering the community support that we need to continue to be able to deliver the services is really important to me,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, it has been a pleasure having you on. And just by the way, for, those who might be listening for the first time, because I promise on the podcast all the time, I talk about how much I love my job. So I do love my job. I was not locked in an office. I was not forcibly locked in the car with Lauren either. I willingly went, and we have fun when we go places together, I think. And I enjoy the time I get to spend with you. I enjoy the time that I have gotten to learn from you, which is just a fount of knowledge that I can glean from. So I appreciate that, and I am grateful that you agreed to come on and talk with me on the podcast. And hopefully I didn't torture you too badly. But so thank you.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure getting to visit with you. And you know what? Ditto on everything that you said. I love spending time with you, and I learned from you as well. So thank you.
All right. Well, this concludes this episode of Eyes Closed, Mind Open, and we hope to see you on the next one. Bye. This episode was brought to you by the Possibilities podcast platform.
Eyes closed.